Let's take a moment and talk about 6 micro habits of highly effective managers. A lot of leaders have been contacting me lately for the Agile Leadership Summit, and I really appreciate that. It seems like more and more organizations are starting to really embrace and want to engage in doing that leadership summit ever than before, which is great. It's amazing because I really do think it has an impact and it makes a difference in organizations. But I think that for some time, people just didn't understand exactly what it was, and it caused them to try to navigate different directions. So, there are a lot of different ways that managers can become effective. But for a manager, being effective should never be optional. It's part of their job. But the question always becomes, what makes managers highly effective? So I thought I would put 6 of these little micro habits together. And I think this is going to help many managers really get their head around six incremental small things you can do. If you haven't read the book Atomic Habits, you need to go read that. That book is going to help you really understand that the small changes make a big difference. So here we go. Coming in at number 1, don't let fear win. What can cause managers to play safe, pass on great opportunities, refuse to take risks, and do the work they've always done before? Right? Fear of failure, fear of not meeting others' expectations, fear of losing credibility. Fear is what makes even highly competent managers simply ineffective. Not being able to separate healthy emotions from unhelpful ones keeps them confined within their comfort zone. Comfort zones feel safe, but it also limits your growth. Highly effective managers don't brim with confidence. They're as fearful as others. However, they don't let fear get in the way of doing their job or fulfilling their responsibilities as a manager. Some of the tips that they do use to do this, they acknowledge fear as part of being human. We're all going to be afraid at some point, and it's okay. If we're not afraid, we're not going to grow. Reframing it from doubting their skills to considering it as a sign that they're doing worthwhile work. They need to make sure that they understand that what they're doing is worthwhile. And finally, using fear to reevaluate your decision, question your choices, and reconsider your assumptions. Courage is feeling fear, not getting rid of fear. And taking action in the face of fear is what makes the difference, right? Okay, let's go to number 2. Number 2 says stay away from naysayers. What happens when managers are surrounded by people who constantly criticize, crush ideas, and object to new ways of doing things? Cynicism makes it hard to get anything done, right? So decisions take longer, discussions go on forever. Status quo is preserved, new ideas are rejected. Under their influence, managers also become critical and disapproving of others. Negativity can be contagious. Not being careful around such people can turn even a highly optimistic person into a defeatist, a motivator into a complainer, a supporter into a cynic. So, highly effective managers check the energy of other people in the room, and they ask, are they raising concerns with the right intent or simply spreading their negativity? You need to make sure you have your head around this. Naysayers are everywhere. They feel it's the safest position to be in. It's the easiest armor to wear. And they may be right in their negativity. Reality may be on their side, but chances are very good that it's not. You can only use their naysaying as one line in the spectrum of inputs to your decision. Listen to everyone you need to, and then go with your fearless instinct. That came from Colin Powell. Okay, let's go to number 3. Actively deal with cognitive biases. How do managers behave when they don't pay attention to their cognitive biases? They assume they're rational in their thinking and judge others without realizing how their mind is playing games and keeping them in the bias zone. Many cognitive biases like fundamental attribution error, confirmation bias, illusion of transparency, the framing effect, all or nothing thinking lead to habitual errors in thinking, which creates an inaccurate view of reality. We all want explanations for why we behave as we do and for the ways the world around us functions. Even when our feeble explanations have little to do with reality. We're storytelling creatures by nature, and we tell ourselves story after story until we come up with an explanation that we like and that sounds reasonable enough for others to believe. And when the story portrays us in a more glowing and positive light, it's that much better. Are falling for these biases left and right, and they follow unhealthy and toxic practices at work. They're quick to blame, They point out character flaws in others, reject great ideas, and treat other people unfairly. Highly effective managers, though, are not free from all biases. They deal with the same limitations and the same mindset as others. However, they're also highly self aware, which is so important. They follow good practices and habits of the mind to ensure that their biases don't get in the way of how they communicate, collaborate, and work with others. For example, they implement feedback loops to learn from mistakes. They encourage contradicting viewpoints. They lead with questions instead of answers. And they choose simplicity over complexity. They look beyond their personal narrative and imagine a situation from the other person's point of view. And that mental model helps you live in a healthy way. Okay, let's go to the next one. Lift others up. What prevents managers from utilizing their team's talent, maximizing their potential, and creating an environment that enables them to do their best work? It's the false sense of superiority and the need to always be above others. The desire to prove brilliance shows up in how they communicate, decide, and act. Their brilliant mindset makes them the hog of the limelight for themselves instead of putting spotlight on others who do good work. They trust no one with decisions and try to make all the decisions themselves, and they diminish their team's potential by confining them to boxes and defining strict boundaries on what's within their reach and what's definitely out of scope. Highly effective managers, on the other hand, act as multipliers who enhance their team's thinking and capability. They empower their people, unblock themselves, and utilize each person's unique intelligence and connect them with the right opportunities. Leaders rooted in the logic of multiplication believe that most people and organizations are underutilized. All capability can be leveraged with the right kind of leadership. Therefore, intelligence and capability can be multiplied without requiring any bigger investment. Interesting. Let's go to the next one. Operators within the circle, or they operate within a circle of influence. What makes some managers give up as soon as they encounter an obstacle or face a challenge? Low agency. Low agency managers focus on their efforts in their circle of concern, spending their time and energy on things they have no control over, making them neglect areas with scope for improvement. Blaming others and their circumstances and the environment leads to a downward spiral of negativity, which diminishes their circle of influence. Highly effective managers behave with high agency. They focus their efforts in their circle of influence. Paying attention to the things within their control enables them to experiment and try different strategies to solve real problems. Instead of judging and criticizing others when things don't go as expected, they look internally at their own decisions and actions. This shifts their focus from other people's weaknesses to their own strengths. Positive energy from exercising their control enlarges their circle of influence. That's powerful stuff. How about this one? They match energy with the physical and mental demands of work. What can cause managers to become reckless and get stuck with analysis paralysis or choose the status quo? Not being able to recognize when they're running on low mental battery or failing to save their cognitive resources for important decisions or tasks. If your work requires you to make hard decisions all day long, at some point you're going to be depleted and start looking for ways to conserve energy. You look for excuses to avoid or postpone decisions. You look for the easiest and safest option, which is often just to stick with the status quo. Highly effective managers and leaders organize their schedule for optimal utilization by matching their energy with physical and mental demands of work. They use their peak productivity period to do some of the most important work. Prioritizing the important work when their reserve bank of mental energy is at its best enables them to think clearly and make conscious decisions that matter. These are so powerful. If you can just take these micro habits and incorporate them into what you're doing, it's going to help you live so much better. Great managers follow simple habits and practices to stay highly effective. They reframe fear as a sign to evaluate multiple options, ask questions, and reconsider assumptions instead of letting fear get in the way of making decisions or take actions. Instead of giving power to the naysayers by allowing them to influence thinking or how they make decisions, highly effective leaders stay away from them. By working on things within their control instead of wasting time on things outside of their control, highly effective managers expand their circle of influence. Maximizing their team's potential is their primary focus. By highlighting each individual's strengths and combining them with the right opportunities, highly effective leaders build high performing teams. Effective managers are highly self aware of their limitations in their minds, and they don't let cognitive bias get in the way of how they think or how they make decisions. And they use their peak productivity period to do some of their best work, matching their energy level of cognitive demand to the work demands that makes them highly effective. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com. We would love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.